going farther along, what about a screw cap, or it's the Stelvin cap versus a cork?
There is no shame in a Stelvin cap. The New Zealanders invented the Stelvin cap because they were at the end of the cork supply chain, and they got tired of receiving cork that had been corked, as they say, you know, and so that the flawed corks would ruin their wines. So they invented the screw top because they knew that they wanted their wines to be drunk fairly young, so there would be no more development in the bottle or aging, because if you want to age a wine, it really does need that cork because it offers micro-oxygenation. But most winemakers I've talked to really prefer the Stelvin over a plastic cork.
What about any of the rules, again, of ordering with wine? Should it be white for fish or chicken, red for meat only? You kind of said because of the fats that the reds go better. Are there any rules like that, or really it's just what you like?
Those are traditional rules, but I think that it's really more about pairing with the weight of the meal and the complexity of the dish. And sometimes it's about pairing with the sauce versus the meat necessarily. Like, take salmon, for instance. It's a very fatty, rich fish, and tunas are as well. They're really great with Pinot Noir, you know, or a Tempranillo from Spain, you know, from Rioja. So it depends. You know, you can drink reds with fish. Now, if it's a really delicate, you know, light, like buttered scallops dish, for instance, you don't want to blow away that flavor with a really tannic red wine. You know, you want to do something on the lighter side. Like, I'm not sure about Pinot, but I think an oak a white Burgundy would probably be best in that scenario. But yeah, you just don't want to. You want to make sure you enhance and complement the flavors. You don't want to overpower one with the other. Like, you wouldn't drink a Cabernet Sauvignon with scallops.
Right. Can I store wine in the refrigerator, or can I just leave it out in my apartment?
Well, you know, wine likes to be stored at a very consistent, stable temperature with, you know, minimal humidity or no humidity, and no light and no vibrations. So if you want to start out, I mean, I would start, if you have the real estate for it, you know, at least an 18-bottle fridge, you know, if you can, because then you can use it as a countertop too, which is how I sort of rationalized my first purchase of a wine fridge. But if you don't have the real estate, you can, if you have a case of wine, as long as you can store the wine on its side so that the juice is in contact with the cork, that's best. Find a cool, dry, dark closet that's not heated. White wine you can store in the fridge, but you might want to let it warm up just a little bit before serving it, because it does get a little bit too cold. So if a wine's too cold, you can't really smell the aromas. And if you wanted to keep a red in the fridge temporarily, I would say the door of the fridge is a little bit warmer or up on the top shelf, but, you know, really not long-term storage for red.
Can you put champagne in the fridge too?
Absolutely. With champagne, that's the exception. It's the colder the better, because it makes it easier to get the cork out in a safe way.
If someone's pouring the bottle at a restaurant and they give you the first glass, and you see everyone, you know, swish it around, they smell it, like, what are you smelling for, and what are you, you know, like, what is all of that about? Well,
basically, when you're being served a bottle, you know, you're laying out some money for the bottle, so you have to make sure that the bottle is sound. Not everything is stored correctly.
And when they show you the bottle, they come out and they show you the bottle, what are you looking at to make sure it's the bottle you ordered, or is there something on the label you're checking?
No, it's to make sure, it's to confirm that this is the bottle that you ordered. And because people do get confused sometimes, and orders get, you know, a bottle gets open and we're like, wait a minute, this is not what I ordered. So it's really up to the customer to verify what they've ordered before the sommelier actually opens the bottle. And then the whole reason the first taste goes to the person who ordered the bottle is so they can make sure they're not smelling the TCA or the corked factor. Sometimes bottles spoil, and it's, you know, something went wrong along the line.
Would you know it? Would I know it being not a...
If you smell like damp, like dirty laundry in a basement that sounds really musty, chances are it could be corked. I mean, there's a whole host of other flaws that can happen in a wine bottle. When you swirl the wine in the glass, it's mainly to volatilize, this is the technical term, volatilize the esters. It's so you can, you know, smell the aromas, because part of wine tasting is not just, you know, sipping it, but you're a lot of what you taste is what you smell, actually. So
you're not a wine guzzler. You're tasting.
Yeah, you're tasting. I mean, there are moments when wine guzzling is appropriate, but the legs sort of indicate alcohol content. If they're like fat and slow and running down your glass, chances are it's either a high alcohol wine of like 14% or higher, or it could be a dessert wine. Dessert wines have the greatest legs of all, pretty much. So,
is anything from France great? Can I not go wrong with France? Or
well, there's a whole lot of great in France, and in like any other wine-producing nation, there are some things that probably are not fabulous, but that's sort of, it just depends, But for the most part, I think France is sort of the benchmark for all wine production. I mean, especially the international varieties that they refer to are French grapes, like Pinot Noir, Cabernet Sauvignon, Sauvignon Blanc. All those wines, all those grapes have their origins in France. So yeah, we look to France for the.
When you see, it's probably a sommelier, like when they're testing a wine, you see them spin it around and then they spit. So do you spit or swallow? Like,
depends on what I'm drinking, Tina. I don't know. I mean,
Why would they do one versus the other?
Why would you spit? Well, basically, if you're tasting hundreds of wines in a day, you want to really take a sip, because you should know within the first sip or first couple of sips, and by spitting, you shouldn't have to swallow it to actually, because the tasting actually happens in your mouth, and this little
and you swish it all around.
Yeah, and this little gizmo that you have in the back of your throat is called the retronasal passage. So it's what connects your nose to your mouth. So that's where all the tasting really happens. You don't actually have to swallow it. Yeah, a wine consultant's not going to tell you what you like. You have to figure out what you like for yourself, and the only way to do that is to taste. So what you want to do, what I did, I went to as many free wine tastings that were offered at some of the larger wine stores in New York.
And they do them quite often.
They do them, especially during the fall season, leading up to the holidays. You can get probably pretty much every Saturday somewhere in the city. There's probably at least 10 tastings going on. So try it before you buy it. And usually these tastings offer a discount on the bottles that they're showing, which is quite handy. Usually, even Wednesdays and Friday nights, you can find tastings in the city. So that's step one. And get to know the people in your local wine shop. Take a recommendation, go out on a limb and take a recommendation, try the wine, and then you'll sort of have a sense that person has a similar palate to yours. And then that's how you sort of build up, your wine knowledge, and you just have to keep trying different ones. If you drink the same bottle of wine every day or every week, you're just going to drink the same wine. Like you have to you won't know what else is out there,